Welcome back to the Trifecta Airsoft Podcast. I'm your host, E-Rock. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already so you never miss another podcast. Also, do me a favor. Go on to whatever podcast app you listen to us on and give us a rating and review. That really helps us rank in the searches. Thank you so much. Let's get into the podcast. Welcome, man.
Yeah, what's going on?
What's going on?
Just sitting here where I sit most of my hours when I'm not working.
Uh-oh. What do you do, design?
No,
Is this where you do all your thinking?
I'm a union pipe fitter and welder. So living in Texas, I stand in what is Satan's asshole and just work all day. So if I curse too much, just call me out on it.
No, okay, so let's go over the ground rules.
Yeah.
There are none, okay?
Help me out, yeah. Let me know what's up.
There's no ground rules. I don't self-censor. I put this on every video platform out there. So Rumble, Anchor, which is Spotify video.
Okay.
And Twitter, and Facebook, and of course YouTube. And so I don't care if one of them doesn't accept the video. That's fine with me.
Yeah.
So I want this to be like a conversation as if you were at my house for a barbecue or a cookout and we're just hanging out talking. So anything goes, any kind of language, any kind of topic,
Cool.
No rules, man.
Well, I think for YouTube, what these days, it's like, whatever RFK Jr. talks about, don't talk about that.
No shit, dude.
What it is.
Isn't that weird? Like, so anything that's common sense and don't talk about. So, and they don't want you to say certain words. Like somebody said to me one time, okay, we can't say suicide on here. We got to say unalived. And I'm like, oh, I'm not. I don't play that game, bro. No, you just talk. We just say the right words. Okay.
Okay. How do you talk about veterans? It's like you can't say that.
That's why. See, that's one of the things that irritates me. Is I think some of those things are. It's hard not to think that it's purposely chosen so that we can't talk about those important issues on a platform like that big. So,
right.
If you can't talk about it, then it doesn't get fixed.
Well, it redefines terms.
Absolutely.
I'll be more generic. How terms can be rehashed. Like, they redefine court packing. It's like,
they've been doing that for years, bro. For years, like with the gun control thing. For what 30 years, they've been trying to mix and match words and that's try to make things so difficult to understand when it's really not. It's common sense, and they don't like to hear that. So
confirmation bias is a difficult thing.
Well, how did you get into? I worked with a bunch of pipe fitters up in Ohio before I moved down here to South Carolina. I actually helped them build a whole, plumb in basically the whole system in a factory that I worked at because I was on the maintenance crew. So we were kind of working with them, and I remember one of the guys saying, and this is the first time I worked with him. He's like, I was like, here, I'll help you with this. He's like, no, I got to do it. I was like, oh, okay. He's like, yeah, we're, the pipe fitters union, and my boss or whatever is like in the, on the floor. I was like, oh, gotcha. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
How'd you end up doing that?
I was just a drug addict, and I just hung out with fellow people. No, I
love it.
So I do the trade because I grew up in Alaska, and the Alaska pipeline is a big money generating item there.
Right.
So my dad was working he was a senior telecom engineer for Alaska Pipeline, and as he would travel to go to different pump stations, 12 pump stations, he would go pump station to pump station. There were always like welding hoods hanging in the closets. And it was like, no matter how good the engineers were, no matter how much money you threw at a project, it didn't matter if you didn't have the certified tradeability to do it. That liquid, I think back then it was like $1 million, 1 million barrels a day. It's like $13 million a day flowed through the pipeline. And if one welder holds that up, it's obviously an important job. And so he also knew that
Sure.
I was, has to be delicate but factual, not the most studious student. Um, Maybe just disinterested in sitting in a classroom.
For sure.
He encouraged me to pursue trade work. Um, so I tried to get in the apprenticeship that I finished now, which is the UA, United Association Plumbers and Pipe Fitters in Alaska. But I graduated high school, and that's all I did. So when they then would take 30 apprentices a year, why would they take me with my 2.05? So they didn't. So then I went to welding school in Southern California, Costa Mesa, and then I got into trade there. And then I decided to move to Texas, where it's murderous in the summertime and
And a weld. Yeah.
so brutal. Yeah,
I mean, what? It's not that hot. Like you gotta.
8 o'clock.
What is it,
It's 8 o'clock, and it's 100. It's 99.
bro?
Yeah, no, it's off. So yeah, and so I've been working. Yeah, there's some jobs that I remember that kind of redefined hot for me. Like I was as an apprentice, I was welding on a school rooftop, and most of the schools here are like white insulation, right? Because it reflects the sun. This was an old school, and we were replacing some of their natural gas lines on top of the school. It was,
Yeah.
I think,
Okay. Hey, do
it
me a
wasn't
favor, real quick. You know what? You know what's happening?
that.
I just realized this. I can only hear like if I make any kind of noise,
Yeah,
it's it's canceling out your microphone, right? It's counting as background because it's hearing my voice.
yeah.
So turn it down. I'm gonna keep talking.
Okay,
Turn your volume down just where you can where you can still hear me, but it's not too loud.
is that
Okay,
better?
in your room, that's way better.
Okay, that's way better. Good deal.
There you go. And it doesn't affect your audio, so that's perfect. Okay.
No, yeah, yeah. No, those,
Okay, so go over that again now.
oh, just so we were working on this school rooftop, and it was all blacktop. It was like a tar roof
Yep.
from, yeah. So it was like we always get heat waves here, but it was another heat wave summer. I think it was 2015, and it was just grueling. And I was just like, this is not. A lot of the older journeymen, they would just leave at lunchtime because it was so hot on the roof that it was just dangerous.
For sure.
Yeah.
I did roofing, not in Texas, but in Ohio before we moved down here. I did roofing, and I was the gopher, so I hauled the shingles up the ladder to the roof for the
That's
guys.
brutal. That's so brutal.
It's so hot, your feet stick to the frickin' shingles.
Yeah, and all that.
Mm-mm.
What's good is that breathing all that hot tar isn't terrible for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no chemicals in it.
No. What? It smells all natural. What are you talking about?
Yeah, in a oil well.
Oil comes from the earth. Okay,
Better
it's
things for chemicals.
natural.
Isn't that what DuPont said when they made?
Yeah. When they made Teflon, bro.
You see that film, Dark
I was
Waters?
gonna Dark Waters, bro. I was just gonna say that. You know why? Okay, it's funny you bring that up because
It is not,
um,
and it really
I
was.
had watched that movie, right, and then not even maybe 3 or 4 months after I watched the movie, I had one of my buddies on here on the podcast for the first time,
Yeah.
who him and I had been talking for at least a couple years through our YouTube channel and stuff. He started his own YouTube channel for Airsoft, and it's
Mhm.
Caleb Tucker Airsoft. And so I had him on here, and he's like, "Yeah." I asked him what kind of work he did. What how did he grow up and stuff. And he's like, "Yeah." So he got into acting or whatever. So he does like supporting or not supporting, but like what do you call those? All the extras. So he they were filming Dark Waters in his area.
Oh
So he
wow.
lives in like southern Ohio, and it's like out in farm country and stuff. So he applied for one of the extras,
Yeah.
and we actually pulled it up on the podcast,
Yeah.
the little clip where it shows him. He's one of, I guess it's one of the parts where they're going through the town. The car's going through the town, and it's like just kind of showing the small town that it was
Right.
in, and all these different. There's like unemployment line or something like that, and he was standing in that. But it was for that movie, and it was pretty cool. So
I figured they would just film those people unknowingly. Because you could get some like genuine homeless people who are out of their minds and like, hey, this guy, instead of paying $2,000, just go give this guy a bump and let him just do his thing.
Yeah, they actually a lot of those extras they don't pay. They'll pay they don't pay them. I think they give them free lunch or something like that. I can't remember what he said. Yeah, hey, here's a bag lunch. Okay, stand over here and smoke a cigarette and act like you're talking to this dude over here on the sidewalk. I don't know.
That's not a good deal. I mean, I don't know.
I
Maybe
mean,
I'd love to be around the industry. That's pretty cool.
he got to meet Tim Robbins, who was directing the film.
That's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
And maybe that's how you get. Maybe that's how you can pick up a role here or there.
Yeah. So look, he told me any extra, very super strict rule, you are not allowed to initiate or talk to any of the high level, like anyone in the production, anyone in the big actors or directors or producers, anyone on set. You are not allowed to talk to. You're instantly fired. Okay, it's a firing offense.
Mm.
But if they come to talk to you, it's fine. And that's what happened. He went out to smoke, and offset whatever, and Tim Robbins came out there and stood next to him and started talking to him. Yeah.
You know where else they do that?
Huh.
The entire country of India.
What?
It's a class system, right? You can't marry out of your class.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's a billion people who do that.
Dude, I just watched this like I don't know 2 or 3 weeks ago. I watched this comedy special with some like middle-aged Indian chick. I can't remember her name, but she's really funny. She's got a family. In fact, at the end of it, she brought her whole family out there, like her husband and her 2 kids, and she made fun of them the whole fucking time.
Good.
And then she brings them out there. It was great. It was awesome. But she talked about that in India.
Was it a comedy special on Netflix?
I think so.
Trying to think who that'd be. There's so many comedy specials now.
I just watched the one last night from Tom Segura.
Yeah, Sledgehammer.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really good. Good.
Uh-huh.
Well, it's funny because I live in Austin. We have the mothership here, right?
Oh shit, that's
So
right.
my wife and I this past Sunday we went and saw Tony Woods, and then if you know who the comedian Harlan Williams.
I don't think so.
So I've never heard of this guy ever. I don't know if you listen to Rogan's podcast, but we just bought tickets to just go to a comedy show, and it was Harlan was headlining. Man, he is the funniest guy. He's funnier than Rogan. Like the way that the combination of like his crowd work and then like his written material is so off the rails. And I mean, Rogan was talking. I don't think Rogan knew how funny he was either, because after Harlan was in, I think Harlan did like 5 nights. And once he left, Rogan talked about him like 4 podcasts in a row. It was like, if you sat down and you read his act, you'd go, "This is horseshit. What is this? This is not funny." But man, you're in the club and it is just gold. And he's going after people in the crowd, real polite, but real mockingly.
Yeah.
Just
Well, I mean, there's a different dynamic that happens when you're there
yeah,
than when you're watching on TV. Mm-hmm.
yeah. And I don't. He doesn't even have any specials you can watch. I don't know that he does specials.
Oh, okay.
But oh my god.
I'll have to look him up on the podcast firm.
Yeah. No. Yeah. He does a podcast every week. It's called Harlan Highway.
Okay.
And then we ran into him actually as we were walking back to our car, my wife and I, and we ran into him, and he's an incredible guy.
Now, did you guys? Where'd you meet your wife? In Alaska or in
No,
California or in Texas?
met her here on Tinder, which is incredible. You know,
Oh shit!
as far as I know, I'm the only person who's gotten married off Tinder. But I was getting
No,
ready.
dude, my good buddy, I was in the Marine Corps in the Corps with. He met his current wife on Plenty of Fish. Like they started out as a friends with benefits thing, and then ended up getting married. No shit.
Yeah, it's good enough. Yeah, no. So I was getting ready to I just finished my apprenticeship, and I was going to Denver because I grew up in Alaska. I'm a snowboarder, I'm a mountain biker. I like to be outside, which you can't do very much of here in the summer or even the winters. The winters here are like they're not that cold. They're in like the 40s or 50s, but it's 45 and 100% humidity, and it goes through whatever clothing you're wearing.
Oof.
It's terrible. And so when you're welding and it's 28 degrees and 100% humidity, I don't know why I live here. I love her because she
Why
made.
did what? Yeah, why did you move from Cali to Texas?
So the real reason was because I had like 7 or 8 welding certs in the local 250, which is the Los Angeles local. But because they're like a big, strong traditional union, um, they don't allow apprentices to weld. And they said, well, you can weld when you're a journeyman, but I figured like it was a bad recipe to let me start welding when I could get fired
Mm,
for like lack of performance. Like if I
hmm.
can't make all these welds pass inspection and then you just let me weld, then it's like, well, you're fired. Like this is not a good idea. So I've been in the LA area for I lived in Fullerton and Long Beach and Costa Mesa, and I'd been there for about 9 years. I think 9 years. I was ready for something new, just a new location. But
Gotcha.
I don't think I was ready for what the thermometer actually meant. Like 10 more degrees.
I mean, you grew up in Alaska. Like I
Yeah.
know it. I know it doesn't get. It's not. Just it's not like Iceland or Antarctica. I know that because that's what we thought when I was growing up in the
Yeah.
'70s. That's what everyone thought. Like you looked at an encyclopedia and it's fucking. It's all you see of Alaska is just snow and ice. So it wasn't until later in my life where internet actually it wasn't until the internet came out that we found out, oh shit, like Alaska is not just frozen all year round. Like there's
It,
some really nice,
yeah. It's fucking enormous, is what people don't realize.
really.
They're like, oh, what is Alaska like? Well, I'm like, well, what part? Because part of it looks exactly like British Columbia, and
Oh,
it is dark for 5 months and negative 60 or in negative 80 degrees
whew,
all the time. Yeah. It's like, there's,
damn.
right. And then Anchorage is really nice. But yeah, like whether you believe in climate change or not, it's in the, whatever the reasons are, who's the main contributor.
Yeah,
Anchorage now gets like 2 weeks of 90-degree weather in the summertime.
and it never used
When I,
to.
I grew up as a kid, it never got above like 71.
Whoa,
Yeah,
that's a big difference.
it shifted a lot. So what's funny is every year at the Alaska State Fair, which is worth visiting, they do a cabbage and a pumpkin competition for growing because what's called the Matanuska Valley, which is a huge glacier carved valley. That's where Wasilla and Palmer are. Is the area there. The soil there is fabulously rich. Like for growing, it's incredible. So the
Hmm.
combination of that soil with those really hot temperatures and with how much sunlight that they get, right? Because the solstice is what 22nd of June. I think the sun's up for 21 hours on the longest day. So they get like 1,100-pound pumpkins and 112-pound cabbages or something like that.
Oh my god.
You want to eat it, yeah.
Why?
But
I mean,
it's
maybe
enormous.
you'll grow like a second brain and be a superhero or something.
Yeah, I'm not saying the people who grow that stuff are real smart. I'm just saying that like they get, yeah, yeah,
Or
yeah,
maybe you'll just end up with elephantitis in the nuts. Okay.
yeah. I got a big pumpkin. It's like, first of all, the South is way over there. Yeah, no, it's
That's
but
hilarious.
so Alaska's, but that area around Anchorage is nice because Anchorage is actually like a peninsula that's kind of hemmed in by the Chugach Range, so it can't expand any more east. But because it's right by the water, it doesn't get that. It doesn't get that cold either because there's 2 mountain ranges that protect southern, what's called South Central,
Hmm.
from a lot of the really blisteringly cold weather. So like there's a
Okay.
Brooks Range which is up north that keeps all the super low like negative 60 stuff up north, and there's another mountain range that traps further, which is the Denali Range. I think it's called Denali Range or Alaska Range. Super creative. And so Anchorage really doesn't get much below like negative 10 at the worst.
Okay. Yeah, I spent some time in Anchorage actually. Um, Probably about an hour and a half. We refueled.
Yeah.
We flew from LAX to Anchorage and refueled, and then we had an 18-hour flight from Anchorage to Okinawa, Japan.
Okinawa.
Yeah, man,
That sounds like military flight.
it was.
The
What's that?
Elmendorf, right?
What's that?
Elmendorf Air Force Base.
Uh, I don't know actually.
Okay.
I was
Airport.
very new. Yeah, I was a boot, just out of boot camp and school, and my
Oh,
first
okay.
duty station. and I was on this flight. This, is my first introduction to an actual military flight. The fucking 747 jumbo with whatever, like,
Uh-huh.
packed, and I'm sitting next to a colonel or a high rank somebody out is high ranking, and we're sitting in our alphas, which are very uncomfortable. They're the green wool outfits you see.
Yeah.
Um,
Itchy.
yeah, wool socks, like fucking, and sitting there 18 hours on this flight,
Oh,
and I'm new, man. So I'm still like fresh boot camp. Like I'm sitting here for the first like 3 hours, just hands on my knees, facing forward, don't even move my eyes, and like I couldn't hold it. I just pass out. Eventually, but um, I just sit there and fall asleep, and wake up in the next day. We lose a whole day going over
right.
there because they were what were they, 13 hours ahead of us, something like that.
So
So
you jump a day forward, right?
yeah, we jumped a day forward. So we left Saturday night and got there Monday at like noonish, right? So when I left Anchorage, it was, I don't know, it was, it was in June, so it wasn't freezing cold or whatever, but it was, chilly out. It was nighttime,
Yeah.
and they opened the doors at Kadena Air Base in Okinawa, and it was fucking, I don't know, 90 degrees, 90% humidity, and it was felt like walking into a sauna.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's fun. But that's the only
Yeah.
time I've been to Alaska. Yeah.
Yeah. No, everybody should go visit. It's really nice because a lot
Oh,
of
it's
Alaska
beautiful.
seen stunning wilderness. Actually, in Alaska, there's almost, if you'll notice, if you drive somewhere, there's no billboards anywhere.
No way.
Don't allow it. Yeah, they don't allow any of the net. I think you can have a sign that's like 2 foot by 2 foot. That's the biggest you can have.
Because they want to protect like the
Just
geography and the
the views is the tourism.
bro.
I didn't
That's
realize
awesome though.
my dad. I went back to go caribou hunting 4 years ago, and I didn't realize it until my dad was like, I was there with a friend. He was like, "Yeah, you'll notice there's no signs." I'm like, "Hey, there's no signs in this bitch." Yeah, just it's true because you can pull off and just see enormous glacier carved valleys.
Wow.
It's stunning.
That is cool. Now caribou hunting, is that what'd you guys use?
I have
What'd
a
you use to shoot?
Mark Ruger 30-06.
30-6, man.
Yeah,
That's my favorite round. I don't know
yeah.
why.
Got a lot of Germans with that thing.
No shit. I had
Work.
my first 30-6 was a Savage 110 bolt action,
Mm-hmm.
all original stock, original steel butt plate. That thing was, I loved it. I didn't want to make any modifications to it. All I did was add a scope. I think it was
Yeah, the
beautiful.
the my dad bought me this Mark II Ruger. I don't know when. I might have been in middle school, but it
Wow.
has the Mark II Rugers have the worst chamber for the bolt, but they have the
Really?
best trigger group to be worked on.
Mm.
So it's like I don't think the trigger is even 2 pounds, and it's on
Wow.
the wall, and if you breathe on it, it'll go off.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I used to have a trigger like that in my AR because there was this dev group guy that I used to kind of. He runs a two-stage Geisley trigger.
Yeah.
But I realized, like, once I took up that first stage, unless I had probably the same training budget that he had, I was going to shoot someone or myself. Like, if I was shooting 30,000 rounds a week, I could learn to do this. But
Right.
no.
That's what people don't realize, man. These guys, like operators, okay, and these spec ops guys, like back in the day when I first got in the military, I
Mhm.
started reading. I love to read. I
Oh,
read
I'm
all
an
these
audiobook
different.
fiend. I've done
Yeah, man.
hundreds.
I was part of this. So I got out in '93. So I moved back to Ohio in '94, late '94.
Mm-hmm.
I was stationed in California. My wife and I got married when I had like a little over a year left, and we stayed out there for a little bit until we had our first kid. Moved back to be around family and stuff. And I got on this thing, military book club. Okay, this is like a catalog you get in the mail, right? Where you flip through and pick. Like you would literally fill out this little form and mail it in. Okay,
So, like, when I
and
do school at the book fair.
yes,
Mm.
exactly like that.
Yeah.
Same
So that's the
form and
same year.
everything.
Not the same year, actually.
I, uh, I did, and so I check off one, but you get one book a month. Okay,
Yeah.
it was cheap as hell, And but anyway, I started reading all these military books, like Fields of Fire, which was
Hmm.
real controversial when it first came out.
What's that about?
Back in it was about Vietnam, and
Yeah, it's Vietnam's worthy
right.
of.
Well, it was Platoon was loosely based on was based on that book. So and then I started reading Richard Marcinko books. Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
his book, Warrior. What is it?
yeah. Um,
Ultimate Warrior.
I know I want to say that, but that's the fighting thing. It's
Oh, the
Rogue Warrior.
Rogue
Rogue
Warrior.
Warrior. So that was his first one, and that was that's the one that put him in jail. So they because it was an autobiography and it was
Right.
listed as nonfiction. So and he told a couple different things in there about satellite whatever
Oh,
that
really?
was back during Vietnam, but the government still so that's how he went to Leavenworth.
It was still classified.
Yeah, it was still classified.
Yeah.
So um, and he was always like, once he got out and stuff, he was always like, fuck the government. I mean, he was always fuck the government anyway, even when he was in. And
Yeah. Most of those tier one guys don't give a fuck.
bro, they don't want your bureaucracy. Okay, get the fuck out of here. But
Yeah.
yeah, he talked about that in all his books about most people don't realize how many rounds they go through, like how much training for the shooting part, like
Yeah.
just thousands and thousands and thousands. Do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again. Like
Yeah.
so much so they can use that MP5 or that Mark 23 when it came out, that they were using. Like literally just pull it out and just like you'd see in a movie, like just plink here. Like they could really do that kind of special effects shit. It was like
Yeah.
they were so good, but it takes a lot of fucking rounds to do that.
Yeah. I've read. I do a lot of reading, and yeah, the most recent one. My favorite is it's called Relentless Strike. It's the history of JSOC, and it's very good.
Really? Oh, I need to
So
check that out.
it's really because they get into a lot of the secretive units on like Delta has a whole heavy breaching unit.
Really?
I don't want to spoil it. I'll spoil one of the details. They were working on this door. There was a copy of like a Russian nuclear silo door, and so like the
Yeah.
JSOC, the people who were testing them, they were like, this is a 6 hour rated door. It should take you 6 hours to breach it, and they popped it off its hinges in like 12 minutes.
Whoa!
Fuck you! That's supposed to be. This should take you this long, and they're like, yeah, we don't really care about your book. No, it's
That's
called Relentless
awesome.
Strike, and it's very cool.
Strike, Relentless Strike.
Very cool. Yeah. So it talks. So from um,
Check that out.
Charlie Beckwith all the way till I think 2019 is when it was published.
Gotcha.
But it's great because like an unspecified Delta source or a senior Delta commander. It's real vague, no names. But
Uh huh.
I have a buddy who's in the 75th Ranger Regiment.
Okay.
But he was like, yeah, a lot of what you read about the Rangers is right. So I think it's pretty trustworthy.
For sure.
But
Yeah.
guys, they shoot. What was it? I think a Delta squad, which is a squad, is how many guys? 12.
Let's see. A squad is a
Or is 11?
let me rehash this here.
Okay.
It's been a long time. Okay, it's been a long time. A lot of alcohol from then till now. I gotta get my shit firing here. So a
Good.
fire. I know a fire team is five.
Okay.
A column. So you have a platoon is four squads. Um, yeah. So a squad is around 20.
So
So
they
that's a one line, one stick, or one line in your platoon.
so they have the same ammunition allotment as an entire Marine Corps division per week.
Fuck.
So it's and there's a couple of guys on Instagram I talked to, and they're kind of forthright about some of that. But 30,000 rounds of handgun a week and 50,000 rounds of rifle a week,
Holy
like
shit.
every week per guy. Per guy. All they, dude, all those guys do is train. Because I mean, you read about, but that's why they're so successful.
For sure.
That's all those guys do is train, and that's why the tier one budgets are off the scale.
They gotta be.
Like, I'm happy that Pentagon's losing money left and right. That's fine with me, as long as, I would love to see a number that like this much goes to. If I could like designate my taxes, all the JSOC.
Bro.
every dollar. Like,
Hey, now that's a new rule I would get behind. Okay, if we could actually
you know?
put in, you know how you do with your 401k or like all these different things, like whatever you invest in,
Yeah,
percentage here, percentage here. That's what we need to fucking do. Okay,
I think it'd be cool.
damn.
But then do you get like a 3x5 card of like what your money's spent on? Even if it's just acronyms. Like, I was like,
Right.
oh, I don't know that. I don't know what that is, but that's cool.
Oh, that'd be
Like
cool,
my
man.
entire life, it's like a javelin. Like, all right, cool, man.
No shit, right? Like, yeah, dude. Like, I paid for this one javelin over here. That'd be cool.
And it missed. Yeah.
You suck.
Yeah. Anyway. That's what else I heard too. He's like, yeah, there's a lot of JSOC units that are in East Europe right now. Like, oh, okay. That means
Yeah, dude, that's
that was
some
always one.
fucking
No, this is what's.
bullshit.
Have you done the book, the Afghanistan Papers?
No.
So it. Sorry, my dogs are whining. So it is. Have you read the Pentagon Papers?
Uh-uh.
So that was about Vietnam. That was about the Washington Post that published those leaked classified documents about how, like, publicly the Pentagon was saying the Pentagon and the White House saying one thing about how the war was going, and then secretly behind closed doors, there's a completely different story about disaster. Vietnam,
Oh,
winnable.
right.
So that was the Pentagon Papers, and I think that's when the White House was forced to the Supreme Court, sorry, was forced to step in and take the side of, because the DoD wanted to go after these people and lock them up for espionage.
Mm.
And so the Supreme Court, that's when they came in and they had this decision to make about like, what does the First Amendment mean? And I forgot what year what this was, 73 maybe?
Okay.
I don't remember. Might have been 63.
Well,
No,
no, 63. We weren't over there yet.
no, it was later because Kennedy was killed in 63.
Right. So we went over there. We had advisors over there in like 64, 65. That was
Right.
when JFK, they finally convinced him to do something or whatever. And he was like, I don't want to get involved, which we shouldn't have. But he didn't want to. But he said, okay, I'll send advisors over there, but they have to be they can't engage or whatever, or do anything, and, like that. But that was like 65, 64, something like that. And we didn't actually really get involved until 67.
Well, until the
I
next
want to say.
president came in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
he
exactly.
followed the exact plan that the Pentagon brass had told Kennedy to do, but now Kennedy was
Yeah,
in the ground.
yeah. Oh my God, what a coincidence! Jesus, bro, for
Interesting.
real.
You know, I'm doing a book that RFK Jr. was on. He was on Russell Brand's podcast.
Yeah, I saw
Once
that.
you get used to his voice, I don't know if you can get used to it. Once you get past how uncomfortable it is to listen to, it
Yep.
sounds painful to listen to him, like he's in pain.
Yeah.
Yeah, he recommended a book called Unspeakable, The Unspeakable. And so it details the Cuban Missile Crisis, but then also what led up to Kennedy's assassination. So,
Yep.
but it gets into all that. But
I loved the way he accounted the when he was on Joe Rogan, the way he accounted that time period. Oh no, he was on something else as well.
he's been
What was
on a
the
lot
rest
of
of him
podcasts.
on? Yeah, he's been on a bunch of stuff lately, but he gave this speech. It wasn't on the Joe Rogan one. It was on. He gave this speech I watched. I don't know, was it Newsmax or News Nation or one of these newer like news things, whatever. And he was just he wasn't interviewed by anyone, so he wasn't getting
Mhm.
interrupted. He was up there just kind of giving a speech thing, and he talked about that, laying out this uh, around that time frame where it was kind of a tipping point for America. Like, okay, do we get involved in this? JFK didn't want to. Okay,
Yeah.
he didn't want to take this path of war. Okay, and violence. It
Yeah.
was, hey, there's let's stay out of it. Let's do a peaceful whatever it is. And he said, and look at us now. Now, of course, all these different years or all these years have gone by. We've gone down that road. We've gone down that path of endless wars. We've seen the consequences of it,
Right.
and we need to get. We need to turn around. We need to go the other way that his uncle wanted to. Man, it was really powerful the way, because now we have all this history that we can see what has happened and how bad it is.
Yeah. Yeah. In that book, The Unspeakable, it talks about how, like, and it's understandable because, like, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, you have to think about, like, the culture they're raised in, the culture they grew up in. They grew up in a culture, their culture is war.
Yep.
Their culture is warfare. So you can't blame them for wanting to go to war. Yeah, that's just what they want to do. My dog
Right.
dig holes. It's what he wants to do. But and this is why it's good to have civilian. Well, I mean, it's set up so that civilians control the military, right?
Hmm.
How it's set up. Now, how much that is implicated, who knows? You know,
Right.
I think Rogan's right. I think when the president comes in, they show him a different angle before Kennedy was shot. And they're like, "You understand?" He's like, "Yeah, yeah. No, we're gonna go to do this war."
I think, yeah, I agree, and I think what happens too is, they don't. Somebody doesn't just walk in off the street, typically, in the past 50 years, and just sign up to run for president. Okay, they're
Mm-hmm.
typically a politician most of the time, and they started out as a whatever mayor, a representative, a whatever, okay, councilman, and work their way through that whole, just trudged that nasty backstabbing shit, you
Raw.
know, for a while. And so that they're so desensitized by the time they get up there. I think it's a slow process. I don't think it's all automatic. Like now, there's some definitely over the past probably 10 years. There's people that seek it out because they're bad, and they go, "This is a place for me," because they see all these other corrupt people, and they're
Sure.
getting away with it, and they're like, "Oh, that's what I want to do."
Yeah, Washington never fails to corrupt, and so are they? We're all corruptible. I mean, if
Absolutely,
I was gonna, Nancy Pelosi is worth $200 million.
bro.
How many of us could turn that down because we want to vote our first? Here's my thing: people are always like, "How can this person be corrupt?" I'm like, your corruption starts the first time you take lunch with a lobbyist who wants to support your campaign. That's when it starts.
Yeah.
Like you're a nobody. You're on a local school board. Like, hey, this guy wants to sit down and have lunch. Like that is when the roots grow,
Yep.
and it's just the system of, people wonder why, like on January 6th, there's a lot of ways to look at that, from horrendous to predictable or whatever. But the reason they got into those offices so easily is because they're always open for a lobbyist to walk in with a duffel bag full of cash. They don't want those doors locked.
No.
They
They act like this thing was
they
on
want
lockdown, and these guys like really broke in like a heist or something. Like, bro, it's open.
no. They
What?
want people with money to walk in there and to come and to
Yeah.
just support this. And here's $100,000 for your reelection campaign.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, everything's unlocked. There.
Well, that's a good point. And the other thing is, about that is one of the biggest problems is that we've seen, where you could see in American history, is that over the past 50 years, maybe a little longer, majority of Americans have uh, gotten lazy with being involved in the election process. So whether it started out as people just got too, quote unquote, too busy with their, comfortable, convenient lives, and they stopped paying attention to these local elections,
Sure.
or, and then it became like, oh, everyone forgot about it, so we can do what we want, kind of thing, behind, under the table. Or if it was the other way around, where they made it, they started using the media to kind of disenfranchise everybody, to say, hey, it's not worth your time to go vote because it's fucked anyway.
Right.
Either way, the it's the same result, which is most people are not doing their duty as an American citizen and taking that responsibility to go research and go vote. And most people don't realize, your local elections is where it starts. Okay, everyone just goes for the president thing, and I'm like, bro, it's too fucking late. Then you need to start taking care of your own neighborhood, your own city, your own town.
Yeah.
And no one realized how much power your mayor had until the lockdowns, and they go, holy shit, a mayor can, and enable the police force to come down the street and make sure you stay in your fucking house. And you go,
Yeah.
wait, but the governor said that, bro, the governor ain't here in your city. Your
Governor.
mayor is. Did you vote for your mayor? Well, no, I don't even know who he is. Then fuck you. Okay, you fucked up, and that's where we need to get back. But and the reason I talk about that, I'm really passionate about that because after I got in the military, I understood how government worked. I'm not smart, okay, but it's real basic, okay.
Ability.
So we are supposed to be involved. We're not supposed to be ignoring it. And I wrote my congressmen, I wrote my senators all the fucking time. And
Mm.
this is before the internet. So guess what I had to do? Look in the newspaper. Okay, I had to call on a landline with a fucking dialer thing like this, okay, or a push button. So I had to call the office, find out what new bills were coming up to be voted on. When's the town hall meeting? All these different things. I wrote. I have. I think I still have copies of the letters that they sent back. They have to respond to you. Okay, that's
Do
required
that?
by law. Yes. So
Yeah.
every single letter they have
Sure.
to respond. Now it's way easier now for us to write to them because they have an official email thing. They have, and they respond. Now, is it them responding? No. When I got the letters back,
Yeah.
did they actually write the letter? No. It's probably a form letter. They have a rubber stamp, but they still have to send it out. So I would write in about new gun laws because I want to keep my gun rights. So now I'm not patting myself on the back, but this is what we're supposed to do, as our duty. And I'm starting a new podcast next week. On top of this one ain't gonna stop,
Hmm.
but it's gonna be just focused on local elections in every city or every state in America, and giving people information on what to do and how to do it. Okay, because I think there's a real well, not only a lack of interest,
Man, that's a lot of information.
um, but I'm going to tell it's a shit ton. It's a shit ton because you know how many locale, the your districts, right? How many districts are in one state,
Do this.
dude? I don't want to take on the task, but I'm telling you, this is something I've been passionate about for so long. And I started one of these back when I first, like 6 years ago, when I first got sick, when I was first paralyzed. And I never followed through with it because my boys got into airsoft, and I was really I got distracted. I was really interested in what they were doing. So,
Yeah.
um, but it's time, man. And I feel like I people are pointed in this direction. Like even people like Dan Bongino, all these different, which I love. I love all these different these guys that have their podcasts and have their shows and stuff. They give information, but what happens is what I've seen. They're giving all this information about, oh my God, look what this guy did. Oh my God, look, bro, we've been hearing that for fucking 10 years. Okay,
Yeah.
we understand. We know that there's corruption. We know there's a problem. What do we do about it? And no one is showing that. And I'm going to tell you,
Yeah.
we can do something besides just a fucking civil war. We can start showing up at the elections. Before the 2020 election, before that, just South Carolina, I'll just give the South Carolina example. So South Carolina in 2020, it was around 60% turnout for registered voters for the presidential election. That's fucking the
Pretty high.
biggest it's ever been, okay, ever.
That's pretty high.
That's really high.
Yeah.
Now, before that, that's because of the Trump thing, okay?
Right. Oh, is he
Before,
polarizing? You're saying he's polarizing?
so before that happened, when I started that local voter thing that I started years ago,
Yeah.
nobody, you know what it was? Like 23%
Sure.
showed up.
Everyone
And
shows
at
up.
18 to 25-year-olds, it was like 8%, bro.
Yeah.
It's fucking sad.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm not trying to derail this thing into my new podcast, but I really am passionate about it. So I want people to know, hey, we still have a chance to start turning things around. We got to get involved. It's not just, hey, throw some riots or start shooting people or a civil war. No, we can
Not
do
gonna.
this thing in the right way and not the way they want us to, because that's what they want. They want us to fight, and we don't have to.
Yeah. No, of course. Even foreign governments, they don't care who wins. They want to sow
Yeah,
distrust. Yeah. Well, here's the other thing: is like California and Florida are governed by the same federal regulations.
really.
That's how much state government matters. Right?
Oh, I
Like
gotcha. Right.
like the city of Seattle. Where was that? What did they allow? Chaz
Oh,
Chop, where they had that
yeah, Seattle and Portland.
gang banging rapper, right? The local government that allowed that to happen,
Uh-huh.
they make their own laws, and there's other places that make their own laws. They don't allow, that isn't going to happen here in Austin. Like, they tried to do some riots here in Austin for BLM, and we just cast a law, and there's an awareness that, like, if I go up and I break this guy's glass and I get shot, that's legal.
Yeah.
There's some laws you can pass to check behavior. I don't know about stand your ground laws in Florida, because Florida, like, crocodiles and pythons and methamphetamines everywhere.
Florida man bad.
Florida. Did you hear that story Rogan talked about, where, like, a guy was running from the police on PCP, and he parked on a bridge and jumped into the water? He got eaten by crocodiles.
No.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
America's wild. Yeah.
It's pretty wild. I mean, look, freedom and liberty is wild. It's dangerous. It's risky.
It is. Our country is an experiment in self-governance.
Absolutely.
And experiments fail if you try to do too much.
Yeah.
They can fail. But no, I'm just saying, like, one thing is, like, if you're worried about where you live, you can vote with your feet and you can move.
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
This part of the founding document is, like, the states are set up to have, so much power to be given to the federal government, but states are supposed to be able to govern themselves a lot more than they, historically, than they would now.
Yeah.
Love, can you let Bandit back in? Sorry, my dog's
So, we were talking about the, like, the operators and the spec ops guys shooting and doing all this shooting.
Right.
Okay. I want to get to your Airsoft channel because, I gotta ask you about that. I'm gonna pull it up on the screen. So this is your Instagram page. It is Russell's Customs. Your name's Clint Russell.
That's right.
And I can't remember when I started following your Instagram, or how I found it. I found it. I just like most people, I see them comment on somebody's post that I've already talked to or something like that. But I didn't know anything about you, and I saw these builds on here, and I'm like, bro. So the one I clicked on, this one right here, okay. And I want to play this because
hold on. Yep.
I thought, oh, that's a HPA, but I didn't see the line. Like, what the fuck?
Little demo on the brushless build here. Got some semi-auto. Brilliant.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah,
it is A10 Warthog worthy. Okay.
Oh yeah, yeah. For a while, I kind of resisted brushless motors.
Okay.
And I'm going to talk some shit. Okay. Warhead Industries launched their brushless motor with, I want to intentionally awful motor tabs.
Really?
So imagine the motor tab is this wide that connects, right, the tab to the board. I don't even think a fifth of the motor tab actually touches the board.
Whoa.
I threw 3 of them away because they want $50 to fix them. I'm like, you guys can.
What?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
They have great marketing. They have really pretty boxes and they have great marketing.
Yep.
Winley, quiet. So they have really good marketing, but, like, their initial Gen 1 launch product is abysmal. And more brushless motors came out. And also the pinion gear that they launched with was real weak, because with brushless, it's a lot more violent of a motor. Like, its torque is 3 to 5 times more than a brushed motor. So that torque is what breaks shit, right? Or, like, horsepower doesn't really break stuff. It's usually like the introduction of a harsh torque curve in, like, a transmission of a car.
Yep.
And it breaks gears or breaks pistons or header rod.
Yeah.
So the Warhead motors, I don't want to work with them. And here, I'll show you. So I think this is a customer going to be able to finish today. This is a 12-to-1 with an ASG Infinity 18K motor. So it's slow. It's an 18,000 RPM motor. It's not that it's very fast. If it has 28 TPA, so it's got a lot of copper, so it's a strong magnetic field. But with 12-to-1 gears, it's still responsive. But the full auto is not very fast. It's just kind of realistic. So that's a brush motor build.
Okay.
And that's what I was building a lot of. So they feed real reliable. They're real accurate. They're real consistent. But I didn't want to work with brushless motors until, and I'll give him a shout out. One of my customers, Damien, he wanted to buy a T238 motor. And it was like $108. And I'm like, what is this piece of shit? Who's T238? What kind of name? So he sends it to me, and I'm like, whatever. And now I have a whole stack of them.
No way.
That's all I use now. That's all I use. So I open the box and I pull it out, and the tabs are like mounted to the board and soldered all the way across, and they're stronger than a lot of brushed motor tabs.
No
and they're
shit.
Wide copper. And they've even since then revised the board, and it's even better. So
shout out to T whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's all I install. So you get them for like $120 on Amazon or something like that. So I buy them like 20 at a time from the manufacturer. I buy a stack of them. But once I worked with that, once I saw like the difference in the performance, I was like, oh, okay. So I had to kind of eat my own confirmation bias, because I was like, I'm not gonna brushless. Like that's not approved. Because my feeling was, and I still kind of feel that way. It's like brushless. Sometimes new technologies come out and they need a few generations to get good. And I saw the Warhead product, and I'm like, brushless ain't here yet. Like if you try to like install the wires and then remove them, it could break the tab off. It's like bad design. So it's bad. Now their new ones that just came out or have been out for a few months, they have tabs that are remarkably similar to the T238. Include there what you want to conclude. So, but the brushless, it's funny because it's a totally different technology to. I probably just hijacked this conversation and totally forgot whatever question you were going to ask.
No, you're talking about exactly what I asked about the your builds and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so the brushless, the cool thing about it is, so they create torque differently. Like where a brushed motor uses wound copper around an armature, which is the TPA rating. The more copper, the slower it spins, but the more torque it can produce, more work it can do. The problem is they produce heat. There's a lot of heat generation. Brushless motors produce a lot less. They can still make warm. Like if I binary through 1,000 rounds, the motors get warm. But they don't get warm the way a brushed motor would, and they don't wear out. But they also their torque curve is different because the way that not the drive shaft. What's the word I'm looking for? The shaft, motor shaft. There we go. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
The motor shaft gets exposed to different pulls, like 3 or 4 or 5 times as it rotates. So we're on a brushed motor, it gets a torque, it gets a magnetic pull on one rotation. The brushless can get 4 or 5 pulls on a rotation. So the amount that it gets, it's way more powerful.
Okay.
But also, it uses like half the power or a third of the energy of a brush motor. But you have this enormous bump in torque, and then you have this way less power draw. So we were at an op. We went to Arsenal a few weeks ago, where I got heat exhaustion, which was cool. But my buddy Nathan, he's got one of these builds, and he took a 1,200 milliamp battery, and he used it 12 hours Saturday, 5 hours on Sunday, and he'd only use 2/3 of the available charge.
Whoa!
So it starts at 11.1 volts, or I think voltage per cell is like 4.2. That's what the Titan cuts them off at. It's 4.2. When we plugged it in, it was still at what was it at? 9. No, it was still like 10.6.
Get out.
So, yeah. No, 4.2. So it was at like 3.7.
Right.
Off around 3.3. You can program tighten to turn off between 3.3 and 3.2.
Okay.
So it is a huge step in technology.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, how did you? So tell me how you got into airsoft, and then how did you, or why did you start doing builds?
I got into airsoft. What's funny is so in college I wanted to be a U.S. Army Green Beret. That was what I wanted to do. I watched the movie. Like I wanted to be in special operations because I wanted to go jump out of airplanes and shoot awful people in the face.
Yeah.
You know, who doesn't want to halo into some shithole in Afghanistan? And
Absolutely.
who doesn't? You know,
We want to go kill the bad guys, man. Yeah.
yeah. Your testosterone's good. I feel like a lot of people are like, hey, let's go. Yeah. Who doesn't?
Yeah.
So
All right.
cool shit, you know. So
Uh-huh.
I watched this movie Green Zone with Matt Damon, right?
Yep. Saw it.
Saved in Space. But he played an Army Ranger or whatever, and then he gets his ass kicked by a Green Beret. And I was like, that's what I want to be. Which is funny because I probably actually should have gone into Rangers because I wanted to do DAs. If you want to do DAs, I should have gone anyway. But they don't Halo. They don't do Halo stuff unless you're their tier
Right.
1. So, but then I suffered a massive lumbar disc herniation. It was, it hurt myself squatting. I wasn't very flexible. I'm still not flexible. Even if I stretch a lot, I'm not flexible. So I hurt it squatting. And so once you're injured, they don't want you, right?
Oh no. Huh.
They're happy to break you and then kick you out with no service.
Oh, for sure.
But if you have any kind of problem, they'll get rid of you. So
Well, especially like now, or how long ago was when was this? You know, when would you have tried to go in, or what year?
I had an 18X in 2011.
Okay, yeah. So, see, when I went in '89, it was they were doors wide open, bro. They took the broken, the dumb, the stupid. In fact, it was I'm not even kidding.
Marine Corps, right?
It was the they were still when I went in. I served with a ton of guys
Yeah.
that were still getting sentenced. That was part of their sentence. You either go to jail or you go in the military. So this was a very common practice even when I was in. So
They need to bring,
you know,
actually.
yeah,
Recruiting,
right.
they could do that, man.
They should. But
Yeah.
see, they've gotten so strict. My daughter went in the Air Force 6 years ago, 5 years ago. She spent 4 years in the Air Force, and when she was going through the process, I was like, "Damn, they got way fucking strict, man. Like, they don't fuck around now. It's like they don't have the same quotas."
I'm sure if we were honest and went back and looked at the people who actually like fought in one Desert Storm, I bet you a lot of them had, you know, hey, no, babe, can you come get Bandit? Doxson gets the zoomies and he's just loses shit.
Oh yeah.
No, I'm sure Desert Storm was one. I'm sure a lot of those front vehicles were just criminal. You know,
Yeah.
he might be running his ass off for a little bit. See. So no, yeah, yeah.
So you injured. You were just doing a normal workout, and
It was after I played college soccer, and it was after a soccer practice, and or like
Okay.
we ran a whole bunch. I remember it was like a rec game, and we just ran a whole lot. And I was like, perfect. My legs are smoked. This is great prep for obstacle course or whatever. So I went and did squats, and yeah, I was too tired.
Mhm.
So yeah, so it herniated the disc, and then all that goes away. You know, they don't want
Yep.
you. So then I did not think anything military. For that totally went out of my system because I had to have major surgery.
Mm.
So yeah, same guy who did my back was the same guy who did Peyton Manning's neck. So that
No
I was
shit,
very
huh?
fortunate to find like probably the best surgeon in America. He was out of
Wow.
a clinic in Anaheim, California,
Okay.
right behind Angel Stadium. So if you look back behind him, there's a building that says Curlin and Job.
Yeah.
So then I didn't find airsoft until rather recently. I would say 5 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And I don't know what made me want to play. I don't think I saw it because YouTube wasn't the way it is now. There weren't like suggestions and all that stuff.
Right.
I don't know why I wanted to go play it. But I went to a field and I looked around and I bought a gun. I bought a Lancer Gen 2 that wouldn't feed. Obviously, I could fix it now, but it wouldn't hold the magazine in to make it feed. So I imagine the kid changed out the mag release or some tappet plate was broken or something like that. So I ended up then I bought a Gen 2 Pro line, which was really cool. And I'm a big fan of Lancers. I think they're really great. You know, they make good stuff.
Ooh, it's pretty.
That's a brushless, but that's an indoor brush. That one's all over my Instagram, but I'll show you how it runs. But yeah, and then I think I was like one time I swapped a gearbox, and then I opened a gearbox, and I'm sure that went to shit. And I don't really know when. I think that's the first thing I ever did. I put a gate tighten in my MCX.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was only like. That's before we got married. That might have been like 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago. I got into tech, doing like my own thing.
Yeah.
The problem was, I followed someone. There's a video of a guy like giving shimming like instructions on how to shim the gearbox, and I think I shimmed it perfect accidentally because I put one of these ASG 18K motors in my MCX, and I followed his instructions on how to do it, which is the same guide that's on my Instagram, same thing essentially. But mine's a bit more step by step. And it never made any motor heat. Even at 2.1 joules, my M6 never made any motor heat. And then I was like, oh, I got this shit.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'll do another one. And it was awful. I think I totally smoked the bevel gear. The motor was getting super hot all the time.
Yeah.
And so I emailed Red Wolf. I'm like, these are counterfeit motors. Oh my God, the audacity. And they're like, no.
I mean, it couldn't be your fault because your first one was fucking awesome.
First one was, man, you guys bought a bunch. You guys got duped. You guys are fucking idiots. Come to find out, no, yeah, I was just incompetent. So I had to relearn how to shim. I got super lucky in my first one. And actually, I traded that MCX, it's on my Instagram, actually. It's totally kitted out. It's got the 300 blackout kit from Airsoft Artisan. By the way, if anyone's looking to buy Airsoft Artisan stuff, everything they make is like premium firearm quality. I'll bet you if you did a stress test between like a real Daniel Defense rail and an Airsoft Artisan, I bet you they'd be 95% similar results.
Wow.
Their stuff is damn good. Really good quality stuff. So I had to relearn how to shim, whatever, and then I kind of got into tech work because I was tired of seeing how much people were paying for really shitty work.
Yep.
Like a lot of techs, I think because maybe that happened to me. I don't remember. This was years ago, but people would send a gun to someone. They'd get there, they'd pay $300 or $400, $500 for work, get the gun back. It would work for a couple of days, break, and then that person's unreachable.
Oh my God!
Well, and that person, they don't know what they didn't want to tackle the tasks. They don't want to handle this task either. That's not what they got in. It's not what they signed up for.
Right.
While there's other techs that are premium service, like Fatco Custom, like Ryan from Fatco. He offers 25-year lifetime warranty on his builds, and if you have any issues, he's there. It's fixed. You know.
Wow.
But you know, his work isn't cheap either. And I guess mine isn't either. But I wanted to kind of see if I could offer premium work for not crazy expensive prices. And so I'm still learning shit. Like I was using 12-to-1 gears for a long time.
Yeah.
And I was getting a lot of misfeeding issues with my build. And then I recently accidentally put in a set of 13-to-1s, and it solved all my problems.
Really?
On the brushless. Yeah, I don't know what it is about that extra minute. I mean, we're talking like a millisecond of delay on the nozzle to get the BB to feed in.
Yeah.
But like with the 12-to-1 gears on the brushes, if I do that, I have to use a Titan 2 and I have to run pre-cocking with active braking, and it's a whole situation.
Holy shit.
If you install 13-to-1s, you don't have to run anything. It just feeds
Really?
flawless all the time.
That's amazing. Okay.
Yeah. And then Jake from Real Deal Airsoft told me, he's like, actually, the 13-to-1 gears are also, they're machined a lot better tolerances than the 12-to-1s.
Mm.
12-to-1s, apparently, they fail a lot. And
Yeah.
I dealt with I just had to do a fix on a gun this week where the bevel gear, because SHS makes how many bevel gears a year? Probably hundreds of thousands.
Mm-hmm.
At least tens of thousands.
Right.
Shit breaks. Shit
Oh,
breaks.
for sure. Yeah.
If you're building like metal cubes, stuff breaks.
Yep.
So that's why I like to offer warranties. So I sent a gun to a kid in Houston. He used it for like a day, and the bevel gear ripped all 9 of its teeth off. Completely.
Jesus.
All 9 teeth just came off, while the spur gear looks fine. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe that was a bunch of slag left over from a bunch of casts that made it into a bevel gear.
Yeah, it had porosity. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It wasn't all filled in. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not my fault. It's not his fault.
No. Nope.
So send it back. I'll fix it. Send it back
Sure.
to you. So like a 1-day turnaround. He just got it back today, and he's like, "This gun runs way better." I'm like, "Well, it has all the teeth.
Yeah.
Works better."
Yeah,
the gears.
mass production. You never know. That's part of it.
Yeah, and then you can go to stuff like install a set of siege techs, which are probably going to have way better quality control. But I don't want to have to make the customer buy $170 gears. That's 8 sets of SHS gears.
Woo.
Now I don't want shit to break at ops. So I somebody wants to buy a set of, but I don't know how much siege techs get used on brushless. Like the guys that I know that use them don't do brushless builds.
Okay.
They don't do low ratio brushless builds. So who's to say that they're up to that spec? I mean, SHSs are a great quality. They're the same chromoly that they use for the ASG Ultimate gear sets, which are very good, but they're $100. I've seen those. I've lost teeth on those before. So
Sure.
it's like, well, if I'm breaking teeth on those, are these any different? So
Now, what would you say is? I mean, I know there's a lot of variables, but what would you say is a more common reason for breaking gears besides the fact that they're just faulty? What would cause? What is it?
bad shimming.
Ah, okay.
So not maximizing tooth overlap.
Is that what shimming helps with?
Yeah, so as you shim the gears, right, you're trying to maximize. Oh, look, I have a whole box of gears right here. Shocking.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, when you're shimming, let's say the spur to the sector, right? The sector pulls the piston back.
Right.
Your teeth aren't very wide, right?
No.
There's not much area there. So you need to maximize as much as you can this overlap here. So if I can get overlap that's like this and I can like not even see light through it.
Uh-huh.
So that's terrible.
Right.
And I'll tell you.
Just the corners are touching.
So I won't name names. I've opened up gearboxes of really expensive builds and I've seen overlap like that. Like 50%.
No way. What?
Expensive.
Okay.
Expensive techs. I won't name names, but
No, that's cool.
when I opened it up, I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, bro.
Well, I spun the gears. I'm like, man, these are smooth and they're quiet. Yeah, well, they're not. They're barely even engaged.
That's why.
So
Yeah.
I tried to use, and I recommend if you're doing your own shimming, these Aztec shims from Aztec Armory. They come in 0.05 millimeter measurements, so they come in 0.1, 0.15, 0.2, 0.25, 0.3, 0.35, and then 0.5.
Gotcha.
Those little extra 20th of a millimeter,
Mm-hmm.
that is more life in your gears. That's more. The more you can maximize that overlap, the longer they're going to last.
Gotcha.
And that's what you want. So I try
So
to
how do you?
hardly even. I try to spin them so they don't run into each other, but I can still see like the gear is like it's disturbing the grease on the surface. That's how close they are,
Okay.
but still smooth.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah, because it can't be mashed against it, or else it's gonna rub.
yeah, they'll just rub and sometimes you'll see, if the gears, if like the pins, I don't even know what these are called, but these pins that come out the top and bottom,
Right.
if they're not super square, you'll get a little wobble, even if
Right.
you epoxy the bushings.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty common.
So
You're
you'll see wear on the.
being CNC'd by a let's call low wage Chinese shop in May.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not, they're not going in the space shuttle.
Exactly.
So sometimes that oxide will rub a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, that's so how when you go to shim something, how do you I mean it's in the gearbox, right?
that's correct.
Like right. So how are you able to see it enough to make that kind of judgment cuz the case, the gearbox itself is the way they sit in there.
Yeah.
It seems like I don't have a lot of experience on it, but I probably rebuilt 10 gearboxes maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. Real basic. So I understand how they work. I worked in manufacturing for a very long time, so I understand like injection molds, aluminum die casting, shit like that. So I understand how things are made. But when I watched a shimming video when I first started, and I think it was like Airsoft Tech or something like that. It was one of the only ones I could find, 4 years ago.
I think that's yeah.
Yeah, that actually showed up close, clear video
Yeah.
of these, gears and the shims, and it was a little over my head. I didn't understand yet how all that stuff worked,
Mm-hmm.
but I understood enough we had our own shims, and I would put some in,
Yeah.
and honestly, it was kind of guesswork. I didn't know, like, okay, which side should I put it on? Because
Sure.
if you put it underneath, like that was the thing I didn't understand. Now I understand what you just showed me. Make sure the gears are, there's more surface area on the gears touching. That
Right.
makes sense. But like from top to bottom, like away from the case of the gearbox, the interior, the inside, I was like, well, how do you know where to line it up? Like I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, I'll say this, and I don't like to my own horn. Sound like a cunt. Can I say that? I just did. That video I put together, I really go step by step. So the most important gear in any build is the pinion gear, which is the gear on the motor.
Yep.
That's going to determine how much heat you make, how long it lasts, everything. How good it sounds, how quiet the motor is.
Mm.
So where you start actually is you start with the gearbox half. You completely gut the gearbox, and you start with the tops. It's like the top side. So the side face you if you were working on it.
Mm-hmm.
This way, and you shim. The first thing you do is you set the depth of the pinion gear because you want. Let me see.
Okay, that makes sense. And you work from that way.
That's correct. So you want.
Okay.
Hold on a second. Let me grab one. Oh, I got motors everywhere. This is the Infrit 25K. So you want these to be. You want the outside of the pinion gear meshed with the outside of the bevel gear.
Okay.
Sorry, like this.
Yeah, like almost
Too
like
deep.
flush.
You don't want it too shallow.
Uh-huh.
So what you have to do is you have to start with the elevation of the pinion gear in the motor grip when it passes to the gearbox. So the first thing you set this dimension here. And it could be that the gear is sitting in the gearbox with no shims. It's just sitting flat against it, and there's a big space. But you have your elevation. And then you have to shim the bevel gear up into the pinion and then have a minute amount of play.
Okay.
And once you have that, you pull the motor and the grip out, and then you shim the gear so that there's no vertical movement.
Mm-hmm.
It's smooth. There's no resistance. And then you would close it back together. You put the grip back on. You put the motor back in, and you make sure that play hasn't moved. And if it's too tight, you start moving shims to give yourself more space. If it's too loose, you start moving shims to snug the gear up.
Now, when it's too tight, you'll hear it, right?
Well, when you won't get any, there's no clickety clack. So
gotcha.
You can hear is that there's a little bit of slot between the teeth on the pinion and the teeth on the bevel gear, and there'll be a little bit of play in there, and you can hear it and you can see it click back and forth.
Gotcha.
And then once that is set, then you do the spur gear, and then you do the bevel, and then you do the sector gear.
Gotcha.
And so that's why these Aztec shims that are extra fine, they give you even fine. So instead of it being like I have to move zero point 0.1, well, I can
Yeah.
go, maybe it's 0.15,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So you can eliminate a lot more flop out of the gearbox and get a lot better results.
Right.
Magnets, I don't deal with these a lot anymore. Grab on everything.
Right.
Brushless motors, they don't grab anything.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I didn't. I liked working on. I love working on stuff anyway, and so I liked working on the gearboxes, except for the anti-reversal spring. That's the only one I really just learned to hate. Okay,
Yeah,
or love to hate. I just,
this can be a pain.
bro, my fingers are too fat. Okay, I just can't get them in there. I had tweezers. Okay, nah, it's just
Yeah, some are bad. The ones that come on the real deal Airsoft stainless reversal latches, they're really strong.
yeah, they're really strong.
They're really strong. So what I do is usually the reason that they like pop out
Yeah.
is because the spring is kind of kicked at an angle.
Yep.
And if you take a flat head and you go in from the bottom, then you kind of bump this. I don't even see it in my fingers, but if you bump this bottom side up as high as you can, it'll usually fix that.
Mm.
For some gearboxes, I think, is it the G and G? Is it G and Gs? They always just want to explode out of there. Fucking nightmare.
That might have been the first one I took apart, because the first
Could
one I
be.
took apart, I said I had this whole wall over here, which you can't really see, but instead of the those pads there, the sound pads,
Yeah.
this whole wall was a pegboard, and I had tools all over here. So
Mm.
we built me and my sons. Well, actually, my sons built this whole desk that my computer's on, and helped me put up pegboards because I couldn't hold a hand tool, I couldn't hold a drill at the time. I was able to get down the hallway, walk around the house, but I couldn't use my tools or something with a battery on it and
Uh-huh.
pull the trigger. But I could use like little screwdriver sets. So I had this whole pegboard set up. I had little tools in here. I just needed something to keep me busy, and so I'd tinker with things, and I did some soldering and shit like that. Well, to help me kind of rehab myself with dexterity and kind of shit like that. Well, the
What
first gearbox they bring me,
happened?
what's that?
What caused this injury? I don't think you told me what
Oh,
happened.
I was totally healthy my whole life after
Mm.
after military. I never went to the doctor. I was fine. I worked out all the time.
Yeah.
Ate healthy. I drank a lot of beer, but I ate healthy. And then like a Saturday afternoon, I'm watching college football. This is like 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Um, my hands stopped working right. Me and my buddies were throwing a football around. I couldn't throw the football. I felt totally healthy. Didn't feel tired. Didn't feel shit. Then a couple hours later, my feet didn't feel right. I couldn't run like I normally could. Uh, and I said, "What the fuck? Maybe something's weird." So I went to do my workout, and I worked out at home. So I had some dumbbells, and I would do most of my workouts push-ups and stretching.
Sure.
And so I tried to do push-ups, and I would do like 50 at a time. I'd do 50, just take a break, do some curls, then I'd do like 50 more. I couldn't do one push-up, not one, and I didn't even feel weak. So I went down and I couldn't go up, and I said, "What the fuck?" And my
Whoa.
buddies were laughing. I said, "Man, I don't fucking know." So we just kept watching football. Well, forgot about it, and then I went back to work on Monday, and I couldn't walk up the ladder to go to the top of a hopper system on a back of extrusion machine, a back of extruder, and my legs didn't work right. I said, what is going on?"
Jeez.
So I came down and I told my buddy, I said, "Well, I guess I'm gonna have to go home, man. I can't do anything. I don't know. I don't want to fall in the machine, get injured." But I texted my wife. She works in a doctor's office. Said, "I think I need to go to the doctor," and she's like, "Holy shit!" And so it was a Guillain-Barré syndrome. It's like ALS. It's like autoimmune disorder.
Okay.
They have no idea what causes it. So that was on Saturday. It started Monday when I went to work, and then by Thursday I couldn't walk, and that lasted for a couple years. So
Holy
it was a
Christ.
while. It was a while, and then my boys got into airsoft. I was just able to get down the hallway down here and kind of do some shit in here without
Yeah.
going nuts. And And that's how the Airsoft channel started because I needed something to do. And these guys started playing Airsoft, and I was like, hey, let me film it. I
Sure.
didn't want to film. I didn't want to fucking do Airsoft. I didn't want to do YouTube. I didn't even like YouTube. I
Yeah.
told my kids, turn your phone off, go outside. And that's
Yeah.
what we did. I taught them how to chop wood, dig something, work on cars, shit like that. And I would have never, ever been on YouTube. But
Jesus.
yeah, I was kind of, yeah. So I needed something, and that's what ended up. So the first gearbox I take apart, and I have all these years of experience in mechanics and shit, so
Yeah.
and mechatronics and stuff. I'm like, give me that thing. I know what the fuck I'm doing. I don't watch any videos. I take all these screws out, and I'm holding it. I'm holding it together. I know that's there's some springs in there. I understand. Okay,
Yeah.
I got it. And I start popping it open just a little bit. I'm like, oh yeah, no problem. Bing!
Oh yeah. What
Shit goes,
change?
bro, it goes fucking everywhere.
It's
Okay,
a.
no, didn't have a quick chain spring system or nothing where I could release the tension.
It was a combat.
Um,
Yeah, it was.
so I get it just open enough to where I can start peeking in there to see what I need to hold down. No, I prop it open just a little bit
Kicks out.
from the bottom,
Yeah.
where the trigger, and and then it just pushes my hand up and just shit flies everywhere. I said, "You little bitch." Okay, so
Yeah. No.
yeah.
Yeah. So how's your dexterity? Do you do PT or what do you?
Yeah, I've been man, it's been a wild ride.
Oh man.
So it happened twice. So yeah, bro. I thought like, okay, God, what are you doing? What am I doing wrong? What are you telling me? Like I really went there, which I didn't really, I don't know. So I started maybe, kind of question what was going on and stuff. And I was like, I eat healthy. I don't, smoke. I mean, I drank, but
It's not
nothing
really
crazy,
worth
not crazy.
that. Yeah.
I barely drank any liquor. I just, so whatever. I was like, but so I don't know. It was a wild ride, but I'm doing good. Look, this thing, mental, your mental health, your mental attitude, your having a purpose is probably for me is what has helped over the last, 4 years, 5 years,
Or
100%. Because our kids were getting older. I mean, they were older. They were starting to move out and stuff and get their own place. And so as we weren't, in the midst of raising little kids. So, because that gives you a purpose every day. Like they're not
sure.
going to stop growing. They're not going to stop asking questions when they're
You got.
5. Yeah, right. So diapers and shit, that shit doesn't stop. But they were older, so they didn't need us as much. And so I was like, man, I need something because, yeah. Anyway, so that mental struggle, and here I am. I'm thinking, "Pfft, bro, I was in the Marine Corps for 4 years. I raised five. My wife and I have been married a long time. We raised 5 kids. I worked tons of overtime all the time. Like
Yeah.
I'm a hard worker, work with my hands. I know what the fuck I'm doing. I work in hot situations, and 130 degrees in the plant, no sweat, whatever. Took care of myself, and I'm like, I'm tough. I can handle this shit. And I'm laying in bed. I can't even hold a TV remote or press the button on a TV remote when they would go to work and school. And so I just lay there. I couldn't hold a book. I couldn't hold my phone. I couldn't lift my phone up. So I would literally lay there and just, sometimes I'd lay there and cry, and sometimes I'd lay there and just stare at the ceiling and overthink every fucking thing in the world. So I thought, holy shit, I guess I'm not as mentally tough as I thought I was. You know what I'm saying? Bro.
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
So, but that's how I ended up here doing this. And, but so now I'm out moving around. I work. I flipped houses for 2 years, and that
Mhm.
ended just, nothing to do with me or nothing, but that ended. The investor we had got out of it and did something else. So my buddy went and worked with his brother, and I found something else. So I'm building swimming pools. So I like to work with my hands. I like to be outside.
So you've
I
gotten
like
most dexterity back.
got most of it back. My legs, I can't squat. So if I squat down, I can't get up without pushing myself up.
Now is that
Um,
okay?
so from my knees down, I can't really feel too much. So I don't have a lot of nerve
Is it
response down
a
there.
degeneration or just the communication
Communication.
feel isn't there?
So you'll understand this, okay, because it relates to what you just explained about how the brushless motors work and the brush motors work, okay? The
Okay.
contact, right? So
Yeah.
your muscles work from your nerves sending a signal to them.
Hmm.
Well, what connects your nerves to your muscle? There's a thing called myelin, and so there's a myelin sheath that is like a coating around the end of the nerve that connect. That's your connector. That's like that copper pad or whatever. Okay, and so the more that touches the muscle, the more signal, the stronger the signals you're going to get. Now,
Okay.
what Guillain-Barré does is autoimmune disorder. Basically, when you get sick, your immune system attacks the sickness, not your body. Well, autoimmune means it attacks your body, not the
Right.
sickness. Okay, it gets confused. It malfunctions. So in
Sure.
this particular one, it deteriorates or damages the myelin sheath, which is the connector between the nerve and the muscle. And so basically, your brain sends a signal, but nothing happens.
Yeah.
Okay, so the muscle doesn't get the signal, and
Right.
so and that's now I've heard of, and that's I still have some of that left over. Some of that has not fixed itself, or I guess, or whatever. So my fingers, so my dexterity strength, the strength in the end of my fingers. So
Hmm.
like a perfect example, like let's say you have a chainsaw or a gas lawnmower. That
Yeah.
gas cap, how small it is. Now, a car gas cap has enough material that I can grab with enough of my hand to turn it.
Okay.
But those smaller ones, you have to use your fingertips.
Right.
I can't open a gas can
Man.
or the gas cap on a chainsaw or like yesterday I used a cement cutter, a concrete cutter.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
We had
The
to cut
loud
some lines.
on a job site.
Yeah, on a job site. And I couldn't open the gas cap.
No.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, damn, this thing's really cranked on here. Like, I don't know. It feels tough to me. And my buddy comes over. He's like, hey, maybe we can get a flathead screwdriver. It actually has a gap in the cap to pry it open if you need to, because, gas builds up pressure and the heat and everything. So
Sure.
I go to turn it, and I'm struggling, bro. Like, okay, I'm pushing in on it and trying to, it won't go. And he comes over. He's like, well, maybe we can and he just turns it like it's barely on there. I
Oh.
said, oh. So see, I don't realize that
Yeah.
it's me because I feel normal. But then he comes over and goes, "Psh,
Okay.
isn't that weird?" So
That's very interesting.
yeah, so I can't, like when I walk, uh, I can walk probably 50 yards, half football field,
Hmm.
before my calves are starting to go, hey, we're done. So then I have to stand in one spot or
So
sit.
the sensation you get is like muscle burn.
No.
What do you get?
So I couldn't work my calves out enough to, like right now,
Yeah.
I couldn't do a workout on my calves to make them sore.
Because there's not enough.
They give out before
The
I can
signal.
push the muscle.
Okay. Wow.
Isn't that weird? Yeah. So you know what? One of the tests they did when I go in,
So
he goes, okay, put your hands flat on top of your knees,
yeah.
and now turn them over. Put your palms up,
Yeah.
touch your knees, and then back down, and then do that as fast as you can. I did it like twice,
Hmm.
and then I couldn't do it anymore. And I said, "What? Like I lost my coordination?" He goes, "No, you're losing the nerve. Like it's, uh, it's not sending a signal as fast as it used to. It's not getting the signal." So you know how they do the reflexes on your knees.
Yeah.
So even now, uh, when they tap my knee, I don't have nothing. There's no response.
Nothing.
There's nothing. So,
That's so.
such a
I
weird
what
feeling, to be honest. What's that?
What's it called again?
Oh, Guillain-Barré, Gillia, or some people call it Guillain-Barre, but it's the last name of the two guys in France that.
Well, I might have heard that once before in my life.
Yeah, well, if anyone has watched the documentary on the NFL player, fuck, and I can't. He was a New Orleans Saints player, and the name of the movie is actually his last name.
Okay.
Shit, I can't think of it. But anyway, so it started out as Guillain-Barré, and then it turned into, or maybe they misdiagnosed it, whatever. But it's and then when it was ALS, so that's what he had, and that's what he ended up with. And he's, I think he's still alive.
Yeah.
He's in a wheelchair, like Richard or Stephen Hawking was, where he has to talk with your computer. So ALS and the difference between those two, they're in the same family. So Guillain-Barré, ALS, and MS, they're all in the same family. They all have the same results and the same thing going on in your body. Um, One of them, Guillain-Barré is not progressive, so you can get better from it, and it won't keep, deteriorating your nerves. Whereas ALS is progressive, MS is progressive. So, and the only way they know the difference between those two is to sit and wait to see what your
And wait.
body's going to do. Right. So,
Now, could
yeah.
you
So
episode at any point?
I don't know, man. So I got it the first time. They asked me, "Do you want to take this treatment?" I said, "What's the, does it work or not?" And he's like, "It's about 50-50." And I said, "No, what can I get better without it?" And he's like, "Yeah, because I don't like taking medicine if I don't have to." And
Sure.
so I refused treatment and I refused rehab. And so I went home. He's like, "Look, if you this was on Thursday, I went and saw him. So they sent me in for a spinal tap, and they said, "Okay, we know that you don't have MS right now because your protein levels in your spinal fluid is okay or whatever." So
Sounds good to me.
um, yeah. So he was like, "Hey, look, if you go home and this weekend, if you start feeling any worse than you are, like as far as like less movement,
Hmm.
difficult breathing, please go to the hospital immediately because most people that get Guillain-Barré, if you look it up, uh, they go from fully healthy to within like 3 or 4 days in the hospital on a respirator where they like literally are almost dead because all this stuff shuts down. So the other thing too was, yeah, it's very rapid, very rapid. So they
Uh,
every muscle is affected. So I'm talking about my eyelids. I'm talking about my tongue, my mouth, my lips. I couldn't talk, but maybe about 3 or 4 words at a time
wow.
before it wear out.
So
And
the
which
much,
my kids
yeah.
loved it.
Oh yeah. So I had to. Yeah. I could
you
get.
know?
Had to have my vocal cords repaired. I got whooping cough. I'm allergic to the whooping cough vaccine,
Oh
so
shit. Okay.
I didn't finish the Tdap for that. So I got whooping cough as an adult, and I coughed so much that I ruptured a blood vessel in my vocal cord. So I had to get it
Ooh.
repaired, and I couldn't talk for a week.
Yeah.
And so like my friends talked to some. They were like, "Hey, if you're gay, don't say anything." Oh, I'm so
Oh shit.
I was like so sad for like a week.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, man.
So
Okay.
it deteriorates equally.
Yeah. So it was really really strange.
Whoa.
It's I'm gonna tell you though the bro, probably for fucking a couple years after, you know, it was, I was still really struggling with this like the kind of up and down of dealing with, hey, I don't have these abilities. But
Mm.
until, and those moments are very short. I don't wallow in it. I'm very grateful for what I do have and whatever. So it's
Yeah.
yeah, but it set me on a really good path, man. My wife and I, we actually have a really good relationship, which we didn't before I got sick. We were in, midst of separating actually
Yeah.
when I got sick, and then and then it really helped me. I'm a different person. Same personality, same smart ass, dumb ass. Okay, but
Yeah.
um,
Good.
I am way more. I don't know, man. Loving, I guess. In my own way. Like I have a better relationship with my kids, and so it's really helped with a lot of things.
I think when you appreciate what is there a lot more,
Of course.
you know.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's when I
Yeah.
heard this statistic about like people's businesses, people start a business and 90% of business fails in first 5 years. Well, what you don't know is, and a lot of lawyers know this that set up businesses or help somebody set up their business, is that the a huge percentage, I think it's 60% of that 90%, is because of illness or injury.
Oh,
And
yeah.
isn't that wild?
That yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Of course.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's pretty reasonable.
So, but yeah, it's been a journey, man. And then we started our channel as unboxings and reviews. That was the first 2 years. Had a great time doing it. All the guys that were on our channel. What's that?
Expensive hobby.
Yeah, no shit, bro. We were doing unboxings. There was 4 of us on our channel. We'd each buy a mystery box
Oh,
every month.
okay. That's
Yeah,
probably
mystery boxes. So we would do the mystery boxes. It was like $150 to $250, depending on which one it was. And we'd each buy one. We'd have 4 of us opening a mystery box on every unboxing video. It was fun. We had shit tons of guns. All this new shit that I didn't know about with Airsoft. I was like, whoa, this is cool. Holy shit, they make a P90 for Airsoft. I was like, look at this thing. This is cool. And so we did that for 2 years. And then all these guys got busy. And I still wanted to do stuff for the channel because I'm hooked on it now. I love, creating content. And I love talking with people, meeting new people just in real life besides this. And
of course.
so I started doing this, and then here we are. So
Yeah.
yeah, man.
Yeah.
So you've got you on your when I pulled up your Instagram, you are you're killing it with. You have those different sections of your builds, like LMGs and the different parts that you work on. Now, what do you specialize in? Do you specialize in M4 type of builds or
Yeah. Yeah. V2 Tokyo Marui compatible gearboxes.
okay?
So, I think Tokyo Marui obviously is the standard, but like stuff like VFC Avalons, and then actually the Lancer Tacticals are totally V2. Combat Machines are totally V2, but they're not quick change. I don't know why Combat Machine doesn't make a quick change gear. They make the G2, but to me that's the worst gearbox on the market.
Wow.
I don't know why they made that thing.
Yeah.
You can't change the gears.
That's weird.
Yeah. In 2023, they're like, you know what? It'd be great is if you couldn't change the gear set because 18 to 1s are so awesome. Like,
And, yeah, like those are the kind of things you think, like, I would love to be in the meeting where they're discussing this, and who's the guy that came up with the idea?
yeah.
Because I want to smack you in the head, okay?
I said, yeah, let's go proprietary spur gear height. And so, like, nothing can be installed here.
Oh my
Well, let's also
God.
put a bunch of metal where the Titan would go. Hey, you remember what KWA did? Let's do what they did, but make it worse.
Oh my God.
KWA learned their lesson, and now their gearbox is like the best gearbox to work on.
Really?
The 2.5 gearbox from KWA is perfect for upgrading.
Okay.
I think it's steel,
Really?
which means that you can, if you want to make a 60 RPS DSG or brushless build,
Mm-hmm.
it will never break. It is a heavy piece of metal. It's got to be.
Yeah, because the machined aluminum, it can only handle so much stress. Like this shit's gonna flex or crack.
Yeah, like this is a SEMA Platinum gearbox. I built a lot of these, and pretty much all you can do is Dremel here and here, just kind of radius it, and then that's it. But they've held up really well. I broke my own because I didn't radius it, but I was doing full auto for like a minute at a time at 40
Wow.
with a 1.5 joule spring. So
Woo!
yeah,
Okay.
that'll break some shit.
Now, so you were trying things out? You were doing a stress test or just
Yeah, 'cause
seeing
I
what you could do?
I'm putting whatever I put in customer guns is what's in my gun. So
Yeah.
I want to see where it's going to break.
I got you.
Because then I can expect a bunch of guns to come in that are like, hey, I know that. Great.
Mhm.
So I like to do, the reason I like the V2 gearbox is because, especially, you can put a max hop up in there. And
Really?
the max hop up, and I give this information. This is one thing also I like to do, and I feel like I got this from listening to Joe Rogan's podcast. Guys, if you don't listen to Joe Rogan's podcast, listen to it. It will help not make you so in love with what you think you know. So I don't like to have a famine ideology. He talks about how like comedians in the 90s, like there was only so many jobs, right? And so you had to be super cunty to try to make sure you got on a sitcom or you got your special. And so you alienated a lot of people. So when it comes to like what parts I use and how I use them and all that kind of stuff, I just want to give that stuff out. Like I don't, it's just information. You're always going to have people that don't have the time or the interest or the technical ability that even if you were there to walk them through step by step to build a gearbox, they're too busy. They have money that some people want to buy something that's a real premium. And that's something that was hard for me to learn as someone who offered a service. I'm not good at setting prices or asking for people to cover small costs. I was watching this just work with me. I probably have thrown something into your build and been like, don't worry about it, or I'll cover the shipping. Trying to get better at stuff like that. But like most people are very happy to pay for a premium item.
For sure.
That's hard for me to. I struggle with that idea.
Okay.
While I'm willing to do that for like when I put a big turbocharger in my Focus ST, I went to Boost Logic and I paid them $1,200 or whatever it was to install turbo.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to be on the receiving payment side of that.
Well, that's most people.
I'm not good at
most people.
I'm not a big shark.
Well, that's the thing. I think a lot of people, I think we have the wrong mindset. Like a lot of people are afraid of profit. Like to say, hey, I make a profit. I make money off of this. Like, it's, because I've had people on here that do things, like what you're doing or, some other things just here and there. And they're like, hey, I'm not in it to make money. I'm like, you should be, because it's a good thing. It's not bad. When you do that, that means, everyone knows, or they should know, you're going to have the one here and there that's like, oh man, they're making money off of this shit. Don't worry about them, okay? But most people are going to know that you love what you're doing, you're passionate about it, or else you wouldn't be doing it, and you're not scamming people. And the more you make, more profit you make, or the more you sell, whatever, you're going to put back into it, and you're going to do better builds, or you're going to do better whatever it is you're doing.
Sure.
And that's how the mindset is. But I think it's just I had the same mentality. I still do. It's hard to think of making a profit without thinking, like when I was growing up, my dad was a blue collar worker, worked in factories and worked on, he's a mechanic, and there was that stigmatism or this disdain, I guess, for the rich guy, right?
Sure.
And the salesman rich guy, and I grew up with that, so I still had that in my adult life.
I don't know where I get it from. I think my personality changed. When I was a kid, I was very timid. When I played soccer in like middle school, I was very timid, and then I became like ultra aggressive as an adult. Like I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
But I not give a fuck. Like I try to be really polite, unless people are not dumb, but are just really douchey or think that they're really important, and then I'm like, okay, let's kick this off.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what. Now, you say you like to read. Now, have you ever read like any psychology or how personality type stuff or anything like that? Anything that makes you understand yourself and other humans? This is what made me change. Was once I understood like there's only a there's different variables. Obviously, everyone's unique and different. And but the general basics of how people are, like if you read people when you first meet them, it doesn't take long. That doesn't mean you know everything about them. It's just, it's almost like those guys. There's some typical types of behavior that follow these groups. Okay, so guys in a workplace that, like when you go to work, like you work in a different environment, you get around these new guys and stuff, and you go, okay. You see, okay, this is the guy. Short guy comes up. He's the talker. He's making jokes. He's making everybody laugh. He's doing, so that's his defense mechanism because he's short. Okay. Then you got the really big dude. He's like 6'5", 6'7", but a little dumpy, overweight, whatever. But he kind of hunches his shoulders, and you go, oh, okay, he wants to fit in. He got told he's too tall, he's too big, got made fun of, so he's trying to slump down instead of standing up and being like, The Rock or somebody like, hey, I'm a barbarian, fuck you. Like
Yeah.
it's typically not like that, and you can kind of point these guys out. And there's guys that do these YouTube channels that and Instagram pages that talk. They're going to teach you how to be an alpha male, and I go,
Ugh.
okay, okay, Chad, like bro, like you can't, okay, like, but you can spot them when you go to work, when you go around, you meet people, you can go, okay, that guy's real and genuine, and
Sure.
he's more comfortable with himself. That doesn't mean he's, not a badass or a badass, whatever. It doesn't matter. He's just he's obviously okay with how he is in life, and I love to be around people like that. You know,
Sure.
like the very comfortable, genuine. They're not trying to prove. The guy that when you first meet him, they start telling you all the, oh, here's how I am, and they tell you all this shit, like, and here's what I know, and they try to impress you with
Yeah.
knowledge. I had somebody recently say, they were talking about contact lenses, and he said something about 2020 vision, and he tried to explain to me what 2020 meant and and I already know how it works. I already understand. So, and he didn't understand. He's just trying to bullshit me. And so he's talking like, what that means is this. And I said, no, what it means is if you have 2020, that means you see something at 20 feet that everyone else sees at 20 feet. If I have 2040, that means I have to be at 20 feet to see what everyone else can be at 40 feet to see. Okay.
Okay. I didn't know that.
So, yeah. So it's not there. Your vision is based on everyone else. There's no real thing as a perfect vision. We don't know what perfect vision is. We only know that it's based on what everyone else is, the 2020 thing.
Yeah.
So now the curvature, like your prescription,
Yeah.
if you have prescription lenses and you get that prescription on a piece of paper and it says it's negative 1.25 on your left eye and negative
On.
0.125 on your right eye, that's the curvature.
Right.
Like 0 is perfect, and then whatever. So he tried to explain all this other stuff to me like, no, 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 the 1.2 means it's 1,200 feet. And I said, wait, what? Yeah, you can see it 1,200 feet. I said, no, no, you can't. What?
That guy gets
Anyway.
to.
But yeah, that's like, those guys that are just like, hey, I want to impress you with knowledge.
Yeah. No, I
It's
wore
annoying.
6.25 contacts, and then I got bladeless LASIK 3 years ago. And then for the problem is what makes your vision degenerate after LASIK. The first like 6 months is exposure to ultraviolet light.
Really?
So if you're a welder,
Oh, shit.
it's kind of everywhere. So, but for like
Man.
2 months, my vision was 20/8 in both eyes, and so it was like having a Zeiss rifle or like a Zeiss spotting scope. Like no matter how far you looked in either eye, there was no blur. It was just crystal detail.
Get out. That's
Yeah,
insane, bro.
it was incredible.
And you were at 6 on your prescription?
Negative six, yeah, 6.25, negative 6.2.
Woo!
Oh, I was blind. I have a photo of like what it was in my kitchen. I kind of like the night before I took a photo of like I was able to get my phone as blurry as my vision.
Yeah.
The only thing great about having vision that bad is like when you look at like a flower garden, it's stunning.
I'm sure.
It's like a Van Gogh painting.
Like fucking 4K, 8K, whatever. Like,
Yeah, well, everything's so blurry that like when your vision's that bad, negative 6.25, it's like a
oh, when it's about, right.
blurry and mixed together, and
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah, yeah, like the blurred painting. Okay.
you're fucking helpless. I can't. It would have to be like here for it to be clear. Like
That's crazy, bro.
and like reading books are weird because you're like reading. You can see how the letters were printed.
Uh-huh.
You see all the errors in the letters, and you're like, it's hard to read.
Huh.
No, so I wore contacts since I was like 12.
Okay. So how's that going with the LASIK now? Do you have to wear reading glasses or can you still focus up close?
Well, not yet. Like Super Lube is clear to starting to get blurry here.
Okay.
So kind of like where I used to get clear, now is when it's blurry.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
anyway, but back to this thing. So no, I
Yep.
like back all over the place with this one. So I like to do V2 gearboxes because they just have the best parts lists available.
Hmm.
So we're talking about the hop up unit. So I like to use the Max hop up with the maple leaf macaroon bucking,
Okay.
and the Max comes with it. The new Gen 2 Maxes are a better unit than the original ones. But they come with a curved metal nub, and it gives you this perfect. What I've found, and I developed this parts list under the use of when I play Milsim. I have a PVS 14, so I run nods. And obviously, in the dark, if you don't want to get, because everyone else have nods, and you turn a flashlight on, you're dead. Like, I'm just going to one shot you.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't like to use lights if I don't have to. I don't want to have to use my IR flashlight. I want to be able to just pull up and I picked up an EOTech EXPS3 in a trade with a buddy of mine who's in the Ranger Regiment. And under nods, it is so clear, and I just want to be able to bring that dot up and just. I usually run confession. I usually run binary at night. Just call it. Okay.
It's not cheating?
Oh, you missed me. But if I binary you in the face at 50 yards, usually get an audible response.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I usually if you get binary at night at some op, I probably shot you.
Oh shit.
Yeah. I just whatever, man. It's dark. So I like to run. I came up with found this parts list. So, but the Max hop up with the maple leaf macaroon, and guys, I've bought every barrel that's out there. I bought the Lambda 6.0 ones. I bought the Prometheus, the O1s, the O5s, the O3s, the ZCI. I bought every aftermarket barrel there is. I have not seen it shoot better than a polished brass barrel. I spent a lot of money on barrels, like
No shit.
that I didn't sell, that I just like I've given away. Yeah, my wife won't listen to this. I've just given them away. Like, so I sent a brushless build to a guy in Philadelphia, Damien. He's the guy who bought the T238 motor first.
Okay.
And I sent him a Mark 18. So it's only a 10.3 barrel. It's like a 265 millimeter polished brass Max hop up maple leaf macaroon bugging. He got it, and the day that he got it, he messaged me. He says, "What barrel is in this, bro? You gotta send me what this is, and I'll buy as many of these barrels as I can." I said, "It's the OEM barrel. It's a Seaman barrel. I polished it." So my conviction is that the most important part when it comes to shooting is the bucking. And bucking's everything. Bucking and quality. Stuff after that is like, I think a lot of that stuff is, there's a lot of gimmicks, I think, in the airsoft parts world, unfortunately.
Right.
I think barrels is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of guys that sell a lot of expensive R-Hoff barrels that are junk.
Really?
Yeah, my opinion, what I found.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a lot of guys say that there are hot barrels and they're not. They use Sugru silicone glue or silicone. Yeah, I think it's silicone putty. It's not a silicone. It's not like a ZCI R-hopped barrel, which has a silicone patch, which is like tubing that's cut, which is way more durable. Sugru wears out in like a couple weeks. But, if you don't know, you don't know. And if you're not a tech, if you don't know how to do it, you trust these people. And I think there's a lot of bullshit out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I think.
Well, I think there's a lot of people, most airsofters actually don't know how all that stuff works, like what's more important, what's whatever.
Sure.
And so they see their friends go, "Oh yeah, I bought this gun," and then they already bought, they buy the gun and then they already buy all the parts for it, and they want to do it themselves because it's like, whoa, it's a barrel and a bucking and a whatever, like hop up, it's easy. And they switch this stuff out, and they go, "Oh, now you need to do that." And then they use it, in one game, it's fine, and then it sits for 3 to 6 months because most of the people, like if they're going to mil sims, they're not going every month. Like they're expensive. It's a big commitment. You got to take time off work. You got to get travel maybe or whatever. So if you're more into mil sims, then yeah, it's Most people, we're going to play probably once every 3 months, maybe, twice or 3 or 4 times a year. And in between, that gun just sits on the wall or in
Sure.
their bag. So they think, oh yeah, all this upgrade thing I did, yeah, it works great. But they're not really testing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Def-
did you test it before you pulled out the stuff out and then, see the difference? Like,
yeah.
okay, it shoots this way with all the, OEM stuff, and now it shoots this way. Like, these guys, they never did that. And I'm like, well, how do you know it shoots better? You didn't even give it a chance. And
Yeah.
they're like, well, no, it shoots way better. I'm like, you didn't even fire one BB out of it with the fucking original parts. What are you talking
Yeah.
about?
Yeah. No, yeah. And also, like, the technology is getting better. So, like, and this is my opinion, it's my opinion on DSG's, the dual sector gear with the introduction of brushless motors. Like, the DSG, as far as I know, I'm relatively new to this. Fuck do I know? Ignorant as shit. I don't know. I feel like the DSG gear was a technology that was, I think I have one. I don't even do DSGs. Yeah. The DSG gear was a response to how terrible airsoft motors used to be 10 years ago, 15
Oh,
years ago.
okay.
So people wanted way better response time on their guns, right?
Okay.
So they used a gear that's double-sided, but you had to run a heavier spring so that those old motors, you could feel like there was something coming out of it, right? More. And then you have HPA, which blew AGs out of the water.
Right.
And now you have brushless, which, in my opinion, is much more impressive than HPA. Because HPA is just soulless. Like, you shoot it, and, like, if there's a misfire, you have to listen to it because you can't. There's no feel.
Mm-mm.
There's no these sound different when they misfire, they misfeed, because there's a lot more life to it. I just like how violent these things feel. When you do a burst.
That's funny you say that, because that's how James, Kicking Mustang. I had him on here a couple times. That's what he talks about, because people ask him. They're like, why do you prefer, have you ever thought about doing like a HPA sniper or whatever? He's like, no, I hate that. He goes, this thing is so visceral. I like that. I like
Of
that it's
course.
visceral and violent. Like, I have to, slap this up and pull it back and, thrust it forward and do this whole motion
Yeah.
to get, otherwise, because we're not shooting real rounds. So,
No.
if you take out this kind of visceral, movement or whatever, then, because when you shoot the BB, it's just, psst, like, what is it?
It's
So,
exactly.
yeah, okay.
Yeah. No, like this thing. I feel like brushless is an evolution to DSG gear, like. Because if you can do a brushless DSG, some of the ETUs, I think the best one for the brushless actually is the Perrin unit. Apparently the Titans. I know someone who tried to do a DSG brushless, and on a Titan it didn't have that much success with it. But I feel like you're trying to come, because how many RPS do you want? So is 40 not enough? Do you need 60?
Right.
Do you need, so that when you go to a milsim and it's semi-auto only, you can still shoot 15 at most if you're lucky, or 30 on an area at night. Like.
Now, let me tell you something. Let me stop you right there. Okay. You're definitely showing your ignorance to airsofters, because
Get it?
this is all about show and tell. Airsofters are, 90% care about how they look and how their gun, looks and feels. Okay. It's, hey, bro, look at this.
Listen, my gun makes. No, it's that's true. That's especially common, I find, like indoors. Like, people want to be. I have people message me and they're like, "Hey, I want 40 RPS." And I'm like, "Why?"
Yep.
And so, look, some of them are honest. They're like, "Hey, I just want to impress my friend." I'm like, "Okay,
There you go. Yeah.
I'll build a 40 RPS gun, but the motor's gonna get hot as shit." I'm like, I don't really care. I'm like, okay, it's fine. I'll build you a gun that makes a noise. Sure.
That's it.
It's not going to have the best compression. It's going to have like a 4 or 7 or 8 FPS variation. Or sometimes the brushed ones, they'd only have like 2 FPS at 400. Impressive. Or this I think has 0.02 joules. I think this thing shoots 1.11 to 1.13.
Okay.
And that's where your accuracy consistency comes from. You start especially because the BB is being hopped, the consistency of its velocity is very important.
Right.
No, yeah, you're not wrong. Some people they try to combine, but I find that an SSG brushless setup with the way I have this built, which is a short stroke the sector gear, 2 teeth on 13 to 1s. If you run a higher speed motor, you might have to do more than that or go to a higher gear ratio. And then the max hop up with the Maple Leaf with a polished brass barrel. And for polishing the barrel, I use Brasso polish right here. I just use this.
Oh shit,
It's like $4.
dude, that stuff's cheap and it's great. And
Work.
I
And
learned to hate the smell of it. Okay, because as the Marine Corps being part of the Navy, right? Brasso is used on every piece of brass. Hey, polish that shit, okay? All day. Yeah, that's your punishment.
yeah, no,
But it works great.
it works great. And
Hmm.
so it just and I don't even know what all. Do you even know what all the black stuff is that comes out of brass?
No, it's
I don't.
oxidation, right?
But it's brass. Like
I don't know what that means.
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know why.
I
Yeah.
studied metallurgy. I don't even know what that means. So, but whatever it does, it makes the brass like super smooth. So these barrels don't get dirty. A lot of stainless barrels, the stainless is really. I mean, when you get metal under a microscope, it's pretty rough unless it's been super highly polished with like
Right.
one.
It's porous. Hmm.
But like stainless, like if you should use a ZCI barrel, that thing will be caked in plastic
Hmm.
within a few games. Like those barrels, you have to clean with acetone because the barrels they're super rough. And I don't know.
Okay.
And you need some pretty high-end metallurgical machining ability to make stainless like super smooth. Because also, once you machine stainless, stainless develops an oxide, right? A chromium oxide. That's the whole.
Gotcha.
That's why it's stainless. That's why it's not carbon steel.
Hmm.
So I don't know that you can polish stainless oxide because it's really hard.
Huh.
It's way harder than the metal itself.
Yeah.
It's like aluminum oxide. Like when you
Right.
weld aluminum, you have to use alternating current because if you don't, the aluminum oxide will melt at like 3,500 degrees, but the aluminum melts at 1,000. So you have like jelly underneath. This it's weird. So whatever it is that comes off the brass, whenever you polish a brass barrel, all this black shit comes off of it, but then the brass gets super smooth. And I found that, the barrel I don't think is doing all that much accuracy. I think it's supposed to just kind of guide it and then
Right.
let it. And that's why the SRS snipers are so accurate is because the barrel isn't this 650 millimeter long thing. Like it's not easy to machine something that long that's that straight.
Yep.
You buy a sniper rifle that's $300 that has a 600 millimeter barrel. How straight is that barrel? Like
No, bro.
they're trying to make this shit as cheap as possible.
Absolutely.
So like shoot the BB with a good bucking and make it heavy, like a 4.8.
Mhm.
Guys, only run BLS BBs. They're gonna be hard to find, but now that I've done that, but that's all I use are BLS BBs. Like shoot it,
Really?
get it heavy, hop it, and let it go.
Yep.
I think these longer and longer and longer barrels are just.
They
It's
don't
not-
provide.
it's not the
They
answer.
don't do the same thing that it does for real steel. It doesn't provide, or if it does, it's very minimal. Like it doesn't provide extra energy or muzzle velocity or whatever. Like it's not.
It can if the spring and the volume of the cylinder are right, but
Okay.
it's not being stabilized by more rifling.
Right.
Because all of the stability comes from the bucking.
Mm.
So actually, the more it touches the barrel, the potential there is for more interruption.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying that it will, but I'm saying you are raising the more millimeters you extend the barrel, the more it's going to bounce off the walls.
Exactly. Right.
So,
Interesting.
but
Well, listen, man. It has been it's been great meeting you. What else did you want to show off anything else before we take off?
no, that's pretty much it.
Well, I'm gonna have a link on your on your channel and your Instagram page and all that. And yeah, it's impressive how many builds you've got and what you've done. You definitely understand how this stuff works.
There's so much to learn. I try to stay in a learning mode because, like this gun gave me this gun gave me a problem. I had to troubleshoot this gun, and that's usually where the time comes from. Like the SEMA Platinums, these brushless ones, I can turn these out in like 4 hours.
Wow.
start to finish, 4 hours. I can finish turn
Yeah.
up. When I start doing other stuff on different guns, that are different barrels, sometimes there's a lot more troubleshooting. So this one took 8 hours today.
Okay.
But so I've got so many builds to get done that I'm taking a break from welding because I was working 60 hours a week, and the combination of that and then coming home and trying to get work done was just,
Yep.
I couldn't deliver the kind of turnaround times I wanted to do. So I'm switching over to do this full time. So yeah, so
Okay.
but whether it's short stuff or indoor speeds, like this is the same parts list that's in what I would do for my personal Mark 18
Right.
parts list, but it's the same stuff. But
Yeah, but you're putting out good shit that's consistent,
so I do my best. Yeah, I mean, so
and
everything,
affordable.
like warranty, on
Mm-hmm.
workmanship and components, all that kind of stuff. I try to provide really premium products to people who don't have the money for more expensive builds.
Right.
Yeah, I try
Well,
to offer a significantly better product.
absolutely, man. Well, you've definitely you're on the right track. You know what you're doing.
Yeah,
It looks good and shoots good. And yeah, you're doing good, man. I appreciate what you're doing because it looks yeah, they definitely that's a big what you were talking about earlier with the techs. There's a lot of techs that really don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
They're especially the ones that work at fields. Uh, there's a lot of them that they don't really know like all the things that you're talking. They don't do a lot of tests, right? They don't do a lot of testing, and they don't understand the mechanics of it and how it works, and so they're looking at it when they drop you drop your gun off. They're looking up a YouTube video on how to do it. So it's not that that's bad. I mean, they need to have these fields need to have a tech on site, or a lot of them
Sure.
want to,
Yeah.
so they can do the basic stuff. But a lot of these, if you want a solid airsoft gun that's going to shoot, consistently for a long period of time, and you're going to use it throughout the year consistently,
Mm-hmm.
and you want that thing that's going to, where you don't have to get it fixed 3 or 4 times a year, then someone like yourself will provide, you provide that kind of thing, um, because of the quality that you're putting into your work.
Yeah, and some of those techs, they just don't have access to endless parts lists. They're not
Sure.
blowing for their own personal money.
Mm-hmm.
To be like, hey, how does this work? Is this because I bought a lot of parts that I had to throw away. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
it's yeah. So if you're working for a field and you're just replacing motor terminals or pinion gears, they don't have maybe even the desire to go as far as some of us, and that's fine.
Yeah.
So
Let's swap that thing out and
oh man,
hey,
you get lost in this place.
it's a fucking abyss, okay?
Get lost.
All right. Well, tell everybody where they can find all your stuff, man.
Yeah, so Facebook, there's Russell's Customs, but Instagram's where I'm the most busy. So it's at Russell's, Russell. I have a pastor on here. I don't. Russell, so RUSSELLS_customs_. So I was forced to use that one. That's where I'm at. Yeah, and then if you're, I don't just do like $1,200 brushless builds from a new gun. If you got a lower budget, there's a lot of options. So some guys, they offer like this build or this. I'm a lot more. I'm not that rigid.
Yeah.
So if you got a
flexible with mix and match.
You want
Now,
something.
How would somebody, if I wanted to, get a build from you, what I do, just the best place to hit you up is on Instagram and just say, hey man, can you do a build for me?
Yeah, just send me a DM.
Okay.
Yeah, tell me what you're looking for. The best thing for me is like be direct, like what you're looking for, what the kind of performance you're looking for.
Yeah.
Or like, hey, I play indoor and I just want a reliable gun that's going to be consistent and accurate, and this is my budget.
Gotcha.
That's because some people they try to be, they're too vague. Maybe it's too polite. I do better if someone's a little bit more of an asshole.
Yeah, more information, more direct.
Yeah, it's like if my boss is cussing to me, I'm like, do you really want this done? Like,
yeah. I hear you, man. Well, Clint, man, it's been great meeting you. Thank you so much for coming on here and spending your time on here.
Sure.
Appreciate you showing off all your stuff.
Yeah, I'll have to send you a build to run. Try it out.
Awesome.
I got to epoxy my FLT bushings on my gearbox, and then I should have a gun again.
Send me one, and I'll take it apart the first day and let
Great.
the springs fly everywhere. Okay.
Quick change. It shouldn't explode too much. Check out
Oh
that
yeah.
that shimming video that's on my yeah, guys, on my Instagram. There's a video of how to shim. Because if you don't have a lot of money for work, or you don't it means to pay somebody, the shimming guide is there. It's very thorough. If you get started on it and you got a question, message me. And then there's also a video on how to polish your barrel to get better consistency.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, brother. Well, I appreciate you, man. You guys have a good night.
Sure. Will do.
I'll have you on again in a few months. We'll talk about your new what are you going to build, a minigun or something that's going to be for an A10 Warthog or something?
A dual brushless build. Yeah.
Bro,
Two motors.
hey,
It's a
endless
motor.
opportunities now.
Yeah.
We don't want to see all your boring M4 stuff, okay? We want some minigun shit. Come on.
I'll send you a build, and then we'll do a short podcast. So you can tell me if it ran different than you expected.
Okay.
Yeah. Do that.
Awesome, man. You have a good night, brother.
Yeah. See you later.
Later.